Wanted to thank you again for joining us today. Also wanted to remind you that the webinar audio can be broadcast over your computer speakers or via telephone. Simply go to the audio panel on the GoToWebinar control panel, and you can select your preference. If you select telephone, it will give you a call-in number and code that you can use to listen in there. I'd like to remind you that this webinar is eligible for 1 free CP credit. That's reliant on your active webinar participation, and that means you have to attend the live webinar for at least 50 minutes. You have to respond to all 3 polling questions during the webinar, and there'll be a survey after the webinar as well. You'll see it pop up as soon as you leave the webinar, and you must submit that within 24 hours after the webinar has ended. If you don't see it when you leave the webinar, no worries. We're going to send a thank you email later on today or early tomorrow, and you can get a link to the post-webinar survey from there as well. A couple of housekeeping things on using GoToWebinar. I know many of you have been on expert webinars before with us, but for those of you who haven't, as I mentioned before, you can use the audio options to select telephone or computer speakers. If you'd like to maximize or minimize the control panel, just use the orange arrow to expand or hide it. If you have any questions for me during the webinar, you can go ahead and type those in under questions. I'll try to take some questions during the webinar, and then I'll certainly be around after the webinar as well to answer any questions you might have one-on-one or for the entire group. And then finally, if you haven't yet downloaded the handout for today's webinar, simply click on the Handouts tab, and you'll see a PDF there with the slides that I'm about to present. This is the, let's see, 7th webinar in the 2015 Expert Webinar Series presented by AccountantsWorld. We have 2 more presenters coming up. On November 4th, Jeff Gramlich, the president of AccountantsWorld, will be presenting about payroll solutions and making payroll profitable. And then on December 2nd, we'll have Rick Telber from CPA Trendlines coming in to speak as well. So if you haven't yet signed up for those webinars, you can go ahead and do so by going to AccountantsWorld.com, and also the follow-up email that you'll get after this webinar will also include a link to signing up for Jeff's webinar as well. I wanted to mention a brief word about our sponsor, AccountantsWorld. AccountantsWorld is the recognized pioneer in cloud computing solutions for accountants. AccountantsWorld has been producing cloud computing solutions for accounting, payroll, document management, and other fields for well over a decade, started in 2001. And you see on the left there the various applications that we have, the various cloud-based solutions that AccountantsWorld offers. And one of the key benefits is that they're all integrated together, they're all professional grade, they're built for professional accountants rather than software that's really built for your small business clients. And we never sell directly to your small business clients. So the result of our accountant-centric focus and our passion for creating solutions that are really geared towards the needs of professional accountants and the integration between those solutions is, number 1, you'll have better control over your core services such as accounting and payroll. You'll be able to work more collaboratively with your clients, and you'll be able to achieve higher profits in fewer hours. And if you'd like to learn more about how we've been able to help thousands of accountants across the country achieve exactly those goals and more, please visit AccountantsWorld.com, and we'll also share our phone number at the end of the presentation as well. So a brief bio of me you see in front of you. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at AccountantsWorld. Previously was marketing faculty at Seattle University's Albert School of Business, and also worked at AOL.com and Advertising.com in a marketing capacity. I graduated from University of Virginia with my MBA and undergrad from Carnegie Mellon University. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And as I mentioned before, if you don't have the handouts yet to follow along, you can go ahead and download those right now. And if you have any questions as we're going through, please go ahead and write them in. So we're actually going to start today with a poll question. I want to get a poll question in to sort of set expectations before we continue on. So I'm going to go ahead and load the first poll question right now here. And the poll question is, when it comes to marketing my firm, my dream scenario would be, and you'll see the poll launch in just a minute here. So there are 3 options here. Number 1, I learn how to do the most important marketing tasks myself. That would be my dream scenario. Number 2 is I have an affordable marketing professional to do it for me. And number 3 is I manage the marketing but with some guidance. So please go ahead and select whichever of those 3 is your dream scenario that you would think of as sort of a best case situation. And we'll take another few seconds here to allow people to go ahead and vote there. And again, this is not a reflection of your current situation, it's what would be your ideal situation. All right, and we'll give just about 10 more seconds here for people to finish voting. I see most people have gone ahead and voted at this point. Okay, so let's go ahead and close up the poll here. And again, I just wanted to mention one last second, if you haven't voted yet, voting is required in order to get CP. So I'll give just a couple more seconds for people to go ahead and vote. Okay, let's go ahead and close this up. And let's take a look at the results. So, so this is great. So about a third of you, a little under a third of you, said I learned how to do the most important marketing tasks myself. 22% said I hire an affordable marketing professional to do it for me. And then just under half said I manage the marketing, but with guidance. All right. So, why did I ask that up front? Well, you know, the right answer here is, well, obviously there is no right answer, right? Whichever one you pick, that's what's appropriate for your particular situation. It's okay to decide to outsource marketing, and it's okay to decide to do it yourself. And you can pick anywhere on that continuum that you want. So whatever amount of time you're willing to expend on it, whatever amount of money you're willing to expend on it, right, will sort of determine where on that continuum you choose to be. And this webinar is intended to help you understand the keys to success in 6 specific areas of marketing your firm, things that I believe, based on working with professionals as well as what's been learned in marketing research, are things that can really help your firm to thrive and to grow. And you can choose to do those 6 things yourself or use them to evaluate the work of somebody else if you're hiring someone else to do that for you. And the last thing I'll mention is you can always choose to change your strategy later. So you may say right now I want to be in a DIY situation, but at some point in the future I'd like to be able to outsource more of those tasks once I have a better understanding of what it is that I'm doing and what I'm looking for. So this webinar is intended to help you wherever on that continuum you choose to be, either to do the task yourself or to be able to evaluate the work of somebody else. So a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about how to make the most of the limited time and money that you have to market your firm. We're going to talk about how to create target client profiles and also, more importantly, why it's important to create those. We're going to talk about how you can market locally as well as beyond your local region. We're going to talk about how to use your website and printed materials for maximum effect, how to get more out of the printed materials you already have, and if you have a website, how to get more out of that as well. We'll discuss the best paid lead generation tool for accountants, or what I believe to be the best paid lead generation tool for accountants. And then finally, we'll discuss what I think is widely considered the most important social media tool for B2B marketing. So I want to start with a little bit of good news, and that is that it doesn't take a genius to do marketing today. I'm not sure that it's ever taken a genius to do marketing. After all, I've been doing it for 15 years. But I think clearly at this point, the tools are there, and generally they're pretty easy to learn if someone is willing to dedicate a little bit of time to go ahead and do it. I think generally speaking, the tools have become easier and easier to use. The data that comes out of it and interpreting that data often requires a little bit of experience and expertise, but it's something that I think certainly all of you can get the hang of if you choose to. Also, many of the techniques that we're going to talk about today are either free or they're inexpensive, and I think that's a really important thing. We used to think of marketing limitations in terms of both time and money. I don't have the time to do marketing, and I don't have the money to do marketing. And we're going to talk throughout this webinar about how to get maximum efficiency out of the time you can dedicate it to it, or the time that a professional can dedicate on your behalf. But from a money perspective, I think marketing, or at least a lot of the marketing that small businesses are doing these days, those techniques are more cost efficient than they ever were before. So that's the good news there. The other part is in terms of measuring how you're doing, I think it is more straightforward to measure results and ROI than ever before. And I think the key here is to think of this as an optimization strategy. Think of this as starting small, learning, and getting better and better. So we want to start slowly. You're probably not going to go out and run out and do all 6 of the techniques we talked about today, or if you're doing those things, upgrade all 6 of them at the same time. But we want to start with 1 or 2 that you really focus on, measure the effect of that, measure the improvement that you're seeing or not seeing, and then eventually gradually expand into other areas as well. And I think it's also a case of do more of what's working. If we take social media as an example, there are a number of different social media tools out there, and I can tell you in general which one is most likely to be effective for your business. But I can't guarantee that that's the one that will work for your specific situation. So I always encourage experimentation on a small scale, see what works, and then optimize from there. So before we get to the 6 steps, we're going to talk about what I consider sort of a pre-step, which is creating a target client profile. So what is a target client profile? Well, basically, I think of it as it's a way of asking, where do I add the most value? And you may consider that to be sort of a synonym of what is it that I do best for my clients, right? Where do I add the most value to my clients' businesses? Now, I think one key is don't base it simply on who you currently have as clients or who's close by to your office, or maybe not even who brings in the most money, because that's not necessarily what you consider yourself to be providing the most expertise in. What I find is that most professionals, including most accountants, tend to focus on those sorts of things. When they think about who my target client is, they think, well, who are the clients I have right now, right? Or who are the clients that bring in the most money? And that makes differentiation between your firm and another firm much more difficult. So I'd like you to take a closer look at where are the areas in which you're able to add more value. Now, if you can't answer that, then I would suggest exploring where your small business clients might be seeking help that you don't currently offer or don't currently publicize enough. So for example, if you're offering complete accounting services, everything from bookkeeping through to write-up and trial balance, your target client would be those small businesses who might want to outsource accounting, right? There's a fit between what you are able to offer and the benefit that you could be able to provide to those clients. Now that target client may be, again, different than who your clients are right now. Maybe many of your clients don't take advantage of the complete accounting services that you'd be able to offer. But we want to start thinking in terms of your ideal target there. Now you want to go ahead and start to draw out the details for those people. Where do they live? How would you expect them to look for an accountant? What are the first questions that they're going to have for you when they call you or walk into the office? So we're identifying where we add the most value and then what group of people most benefits from those strengths. And when we mesh those 2 together, that's going to serve as the foundation for all those marketing steps that you're going to do in the future, all the things that we're going to talk about today and other things that you're considering. You don't have the budget or the time to reach every prospective client with exactly the optimal message for them. And so a major theme that we're going to have today is being selective in who you're going after. And once you're doing a good job of going after that ideal target client, then you can go through that exercise again and figure out what other target client segments also make sense for you. So it's important to have these different buckets of clients. Instead of thinking about one pool of people who pay me money for my services, think in terms of who your target client segment is and potentially over the long term, your multiple target client segments. So the first step that we're going to talk about today is going to be about maximizing your local presence. So if I asked you what adjectives describe you and your business professionally, you might use some of the ones that we have up here, right? My practice is dependable, my practice is high integrity, my practice is trustworthy, right? Clearly all of those things I think most accountants would say apply to their particular practice. But in addition to being all of those things, you're also a local business. Now that's not to say that all of your clients are local, but it's rather to say that geography matters, especially when we're thinking about how to acquire new clients, right? Geography is going to be correlated to your ability to attract those clients. And so you want to make sure that you're maximizing your home court advantage, right? We want to make sure that the advantage you have with clients and prospective clients who are close to you, that you're taking advantage of that. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we want to talk about is your local online presence. What are you doing online to get noticed? And the reason that we care about that is the statistic that we have up here on the top, which is the percentage of consumers who use the internet to research products or services in their local area, 97%. And interestingly, that statistic, which is from BIA Kelsey Research, they also broke that down into businesses that serve consumers versus businesses that serve other businesses. And what they found is both percentages were over 90%. So no matter how you slice or dice it, your online presence has to communicate who you are, where you're located, and what you're about effectively, because that's likely to be the entry point for people contacting you. So how do I get noticed? Well, one factor is simply the number of people who visit your website. But that's not the whole picture, not by a long shot. And when we think about the other critical factors, we're going to look at the two areas that I've just put into those red boxes over there, right? And those are two things that we really want to focus on here. On the left-hand side is reviews, and specifically here it's Google reviews, but that applies more broadly as well, as we'll talk about. So how are you being rated online? And I guess a question even before that is, are you being rated online by your current and ex-clients? And then the second thing in terms of establishing a local online picture is making sure that your contact information and your address and your phone number are all being listed accurately everywhere across the web, right? If either of those two things is failing, if you have a series of bad reviews, or if your contact information isn't published online or is inaccurate or you've moved and hasn't been updated, whatever it might be, it's amazing how many small businesses miss that hurdle, and then all the other work that they do after that really isn't going to pay off very much because people aren't going to make it to your website or to your phone number. So we want to focus on this as step number one here. So let's get into a little bit more details about that. First, get listed correctly on Google, right? So why do we start out by talking about Google? Well, two reasons. Number one, because Google is everywhere. Google is ubiquitous. They do search. They publish local contact information and directions, like we saw on the last page. They publish reviews, and they publish Google Plus pages, which, not surprisingly, Google, the search engine, tends to treat very favorably. Imagine that. So we want to make sure that your business is playing nice with Google. So if you don't have a completed listing on Google, you want to make sure that you get a completed listing. And if any of the information is out of date, you want to make sure that you update that. And it's a very simple process to do that. You simply go to that URL that I'm linking to on the bottom there, google.com/business, and they'll take you through a three-step process to go ahead and either create or revise your listing on Google. Now, even if your information on Google is accurate, I still encourage you to go ahead and go to Google Business for another reason, which is you get to claim your listing. So if you've never put in your information on Google, it's possible that Google, through their algorithm, has still figured out where you reside, where your business resides, and they've still been able to collect some reviews on you. And that's great. But you have no control over that, and you want to make sure that you do have some control in the future over that. So what you want to do is claim your Google listing and let Google know, hey, if there's any questions in the future, or if there's any disagreements or any bad reviews, this is the email address that will be controlling managing any of those things in the future, right? So take ownership over your Google listing. It'll take you less than an hour, probably less than 20, 25 minutes. Even if you don't have a listing on there right now, and it is extremely worthwhile. It's time really spent well there. Actually, let me go back for just 1 second here. There's one other reason that you want to make sure you're listed correctly on Google, and that is that everything on Google is integrated. So as this diagram shows, across devices, across different Google applications, so you take your 30 minutes or maybe even less to get listed on Google or update your listing, and within usually hours, but if not hours, certainly within days, that's going to immediately propagate on every single Google property out there and on every device that people might be searching for you on. So you don't have to worry about, will some people have outdated information and some people have new information. Google takes care of that for you. So we've talked about sort of the primary entry point for people, or the number one entry point, which is going to be through Google or Google Plus or a Google property. But obviously, that's not the only way that people find you. People may go to yellowpages.com. People may search on Bing instead of Google. Right? There are a lot of other places where information is collected. So Google's the most important, but you do want to make sure that you're accurately listed elsewhere as well. And there are a couple of different things you can do. One is you can go to different listing services like InfoGroup and Axiom and provide them with your information and make sure that they update all of it. But the other thing you can do is spend $84 per year and use this product called Moz Local. And I should mention here, any of the products that I talk about in here, I'm recommending them based on my experience and the experiences of other people I talk to. I'm not compensated in any way by any of these vendors, so I'm trying to give you, to my knowledge, the best information possible. But you're certainly free to use other applications as well. And if you'd like to know of other competitors to any of these products, you can shoot me an email afterwards, and I'll be happy to provide other names as well. So what Moz Local does is they have a local application that scans about a dozen different online directories and sites, and they will tell you exactly where you have complete information and where you're missing information or have potentially outdated information. And then they'll automatically fill that information in for you everywhere and then make sure that it stays updated everywhere. In addition to that, as you see in the bottom here, you also get really great reporting coming out of that. So you'll get a sense of where your listings are published, how many people are viewing them, what the reach of those listings is, how many people it's reaching. So it's a good way to make sure that in terms of your online presence, not only are you covered and accurate, but that you're also seeing some results coming out of it and you're getting in front of the right types of people. So Moz Local, they sort of bought up a couple of different competitors and created this aggregated product, and I think it does a really good job for under $100 a year. One other last thing I should mention on Moz Local is Google Plus is no longer included in Moz, and Google Plus is in some ways more important than any other directory because Google is going to show Google Plus pages. So that's why I suggested taking care of your Google listing first, and then if you're okay with spending the $84 to get listed everywhere else, go to Moz Local. Now I should also mention that some businesses will say, all I care about is Google, making sure that it's accurate there. The other stuff is all small potatoes. And I think that's a reasonable thing to do. I just think if you look at the dozen different online directories put together, I think it's worth $84 a year to make sure you're listed consistently everywhere. Just had a question come in from Al, who asked, does that information get updated throughout the year? For instance, if a new site comes up with old information, does Moz Local update that information? And the answer is yes. So you pay it's a $7 per month fee, that's why it's $84 per year, and you can check in on your reporting anytime to see sites that might be outdated, or you could set it up to automatically optimize it for you. So whatever you've put into Moz Local as your most current information, anytime it finds information that contradicts that, it'll send out a request to that directory to automatically update your information. So I recommend that you, that if you use Moz Local, you go ahead and use that automatic feature, but also go in and check out on the reporting once in a while to make sure that it's accurate and that there isn't any information that they've missed along the way. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is now we've done sort of step one, which is making sure that your online listings are accurate at the places that we know people are likely to go to. Now what we want to do is get that out a little bit further here as well. And the next thing I'm going to talk about here is the AccountantsWorld directory listings. So think of this as sort of we're past the beginner step here, right? And we're sort of getting into the intermediate step of being proactive about getting new people to notice your firm as well. So the AccountantsWorld directory listings product this has been around for about a decade now, and what we provide with this is, well, the easiest way to look at this is if you go and do a search for find an accountant or find a CPA in Dallas or find a CPA in Seattle, one of the top two local search results that you'll see almost every single time is going to be the Accountants World directory listings. So this rates very, very highly, which means that a lot of your potential clients are going to be using this. And when they come in, they can type in their zip code or any other criteria that they have, and then it'll produce a list of nearby accountants. Now, the key here is if you buy the Accountants World directory listings product, if you buy a gold listing on there, you'll be featured at the top of that page, right? That basically lets you skip the line and come up to the top of that page within your local region. So this is a really important thing because we know that Google is going to drive a lot of people to the Accountants World directory listing, right? And if you want to be at the top of the search results for businesses in your area, check out the Accountants World directory listings product on there. The one other thing I'll mention here is to clean up your basic details online, name, address, and phone. Now, what we just talked about with Moz Local will handle that basically everywhere, right, in all of the major consumer directories. However, you may find that you're also listed elsewhere. And sometimes that information comes from, if you belong to AICPA, they may publish information or release your information to other publications. If you belong to a state society, they may be releasing your information as well, right? So you want to make sure that those areas, your basic information is being listed as well. And the most important things all the time, name, address, phone number. That's how people are eventually going to find you. You can actually ignore that last bullet point I have there about providing your info to the 4 key bureaus. There are now 3 key bureaus, and all 3 of those are part of the Moz Local product. So as long as you buy Moz Local, that'll actually take care of it. If you don't want to buy Moz Local, you can actually go to the ones that I've listed there, those bureaus. You just go to their websites. You can Google their websites, go there, and just register your business and say, here's my official address and phone number, and then they'll go ahead and publish that. So Moz Local, you don't have to do that to get the information updated. You can do it for free on each of these bureaus. Moz just saves you a little bit of time of having to go to each of them individually and keep track of them month after month. Okay,
we do have 2 questions in about.
Oh, okay. Yep, I'll take a look at the question here. So there's a question that came in from Callaway. I work from my home and I use a PO box on my business card. What should I do for a web listing? So on Google listings, you can list a PO box. What will happen then is there just won't be a map append to that, so it just won't show a map there. It'll show your general zip code, but it won't zero in on a specific location, which is not the end of the world. As long as your other contact information is all accurate, that's totally fine. In terms of if you are looking at other directories on Moz Local, I believe some of them will not accept a PO box because some of them are tied into map locations, so kind of like the way Yellow Pages used to be previously. So some of them you just may not get listed on, but I think for the most part, in most places, including Google, it's really not going to cause you any problems except that you're just not going to show up with a specific pin on the map. And I think we've answered the other one from Al, so we can go ahead and clear that out, Sharon. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit here about client reviews. So the first thing I'm going to mention is client reviews are important, number one, because they produce authenticity and validation. So if I'm considering a professional service, whether it's an accountant, a lawyer, whatever else it might be, and I see an average rating on a 5-star scale that is a 3-point something or a 1-point something, that is an immediate, huge red flag, and there's almost nothing that that business can do to overcome that red flag, right? And that's not always fair, but that is how we as consumers tend to react. We have limited time to evaluate products and services and people. And so if somebody has already provided us with a nice, convenient set of stars, we tend to trust that as an initial starting point for our investigation. So a couple of things that you can do here to make sure that you're getting the most out of your client reviews. The first thing that I'll mention is asking your satisfied clients to post reviews online, right? That is totally appropriate to ask your best clients, people who've been with you for a while, people that you know are really highly satisfied, hey, could you please post a review for me online? I highly encourage you to do that. I highly encourage you to not tell them what to say. So in terms of where to post, we already talked about Google reviews before, right? And anyone who has a Google account can go ahead and post on there, and you can encourage people to post on there. The other two places that I would highly recommend are Yelp, which, as many of you know, started out primarily about places to eat, and now covers all sorts of local businesses as well. And Yelp indexes really, really well with search engines, so that's certainly going to be somewhere that you want to make sure you've got some positive reviews. And then the other one is Angie's List, which is a paid service that provides information on all sorts of professionals, from contractors to doctors to accountants as well. So wherever people are comfortable posting reviews about you, please encourage them to do so. I'll mention though, Google, Yelp, and Angie's List all have really advanced algorithms for detecting when people are using the same language over and over within their reviews, because then they know that that business has coached their customers to say specific things about them. And they will, without even contacting you, they will just arbitrarily remove all of those reviews. And in some cases, they may actually even suspend your account on those services. So really, really important. Do not coach your customers on what to say about you on those review sites. Simply tell them, if you've had a great experience with me, please go ahead and post a review if you feel comfortable doing that. Okay, step number 2 we're going to talk about here. And a question just came in from Stephen. What if the reviews come from the same computer? That is a really good question. So I know Yelp places a cookie on your computer, and so if you try to use the same computer to do the same review from two different accounts, Yelp accounts, for the same business, that's going to be a problem. So either clear out your cache and your cookies before you go ahead and try to do it a second time, or use a different computer. So if you've got two clients who both want to post reviews for you, but for some reason they use the same computer, like they're in the same office, you may want to alert them to that particular fact. Let me see here. And then Fernando, I see your question came in. I can go ahead and handle that offline or afterwards if you'd like to repost it at that time. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your printed materials. Now I'm going to work on the assumption that most of you have business cards and most of you have brochures. Okay. A really important thing to remember and to realize is that business cards and brochures serve a very different function from each other and a very different function from your website. So let's talk about what each of them is supposed to accomplish. The primary thing that your business card should do is, number one, include a referral request. And it amazes me how many business cards don't explicitly state, you know, if you love our service, please tell your network, or please recommend us, or tell us, right? Whatever it might be. Or as simple as referrals appreciated. If you don't want to make a sort of overt plea for referrals, right, you can simply say referrals appreciated. It sounds like an obvious thing, right? Obviously, my clients know they can always refer me. But especially with new business that's happy with you, it's always a great way to just spur that and get them to notice that. Also, people tend to hold on to business cards. We may put them away for a while, and then we see them again, and it just reignites in my mind, oh yeah, I've had a really great experience with them. Who could I potentially refer them to? Secondly, any social media accounts that you have should definitely be listed on your card as well. And then the third thing I'll say about cards is cards should never be cheap. It's amazing to me how many businesses will go for the $8 for 300 cards instead of paying 3 times that. You know, and they're feeling like they got a really big win there. Business cards are an incredibly efficient market. You get exactly what you pay for. So I think this is a case where you want to make sure that you've got high quality cards. High quality cards, there's been market research that shows high quality cards project more professional attitude and a more professional perception. So take that a little bit of time and a little bit of money to go ahead and use those. For my business cards, for my business, I use a company called moo.com, M-O-O.com, because their card stock and their print quality are just fantastic. when I hand out my cards. Just yesterday, actually, I had somebody comment to me on how nice the cards were. Another company that I can recommend is Vistaprint. I've used them twice at other companies I've worked at. A little less expensive and still pretty good quality as well. So business cards, in terms of context, are usually being given to customers or to other people who already have had a conversation with you. Brochures often come in earlier stage. Brochures often come in along with the first conversation, and they may even come before a first conversation. They may be while someone is sitting in your waiting area, or they may even be passed on from one person to another. So the most important thing that a brochure should do, two most important things. Number one, it should list your benefits first and your features or functions second, or potentially not at all. So many brochures have a list of the services that are provided: tax, accounting, audit, advisory. Well, anyone who is familiar with what an accountant does is actually already aware that you do those things. They're already expecting that you do those things, right? What's much more meaningful to them to hear is, what are the benefits that you provide to the clients that you already have? And so that I can look at that list of benefits and say, that first one and that third one are exactly what I'm looking for. And you may be able to actually mention something that I haven't even put in the front of my mind as a benefit I'd like to anticipate, and now you've anticipated that for me. So that's a real win before you even have a conversation potentially. The other thing the brochure should have is a clear call to action. What do I mean by call to action? After someone reads your brochure, if they are nodding along and agreeing with what's been written there and they feel like they're a candidate for this, what exactly is it that you'd like them to do? All right? Is your ideal call to action that they're going to pick up the phone and call you? Is it that they go to your website and gain even more information before they call you? Right? Is it potentially something else? Whatever it is that you would ideally like them to do, make sure that is really prominently spelled out on your brochure. All right. We're going to move on here to step number 3, which is publishing a great email newsletter. So I work in marketing. I talk to clients from a marketing consulting perspective, and I talk to other people in other business functions all the time. And it's, I would say at least once a month, I get some variation when I talk about my passion for email marketing. I get some variation of the response, wait, isn't email dead? Does anybody actually use email for marketing anymore? I felt like nobody responds to that. And nothing could be further from the truth. Email marketing is most certainly not dead. A couple of little pieces of data that we've got here. 85% of marketers cite email as their most effective lead generation tactic. And that's true whether marketing to small businesses or marketing to individuals. It is the runaway winner in either case in terms of generating additional leads and additional business. And even if we look just in terms of where people are spending their time, we have this perception that people are moving more and more towards social media rather than towards sort of the more flat one-way communication that email provides. You look at where time is actually being spent, 58% of people's time is being spent on email, 11% on Facebook. So for all the attention that Facebook and Twitter and other newer techniques get, and I certainly am a believer in all of those, email still controls mindshare and controls access to people from an information perspective in a way that really nothing else does. So, so what do we want to do with our email newsletter? Well, first of all, we want to focus on content that's going to be usable for the people who are reading this, right? So think of this as your email newsletter is your chance to demonstrate, here's what I know, not here's what's happening in my firm, right? Because generally speaking, no offense, but most of your clients are not that interested in what's happening in your firm if it doesn't have an effect on them or their relationship with you, right? They're much more interested in what is it that you as a professional know that you can share with them. So the goal here is to educate and to build trust, to build that trust that you are a trusted advisor, you're an expert in your field, you know what's going on, what's changing, and how that applies to their particular business. Now, that content that you're creating, we want to also be able to then reuse it elsewhere, right? So We'll talk about websites in a minute. I recommend that everyone's website, also include an area for a blog. And I recommend that because blog posts are beloved by Google and Bing and other search engines. So when you publish a blog post, and we'll talk about what kinds of things you can blog about, those are a lot of the same things that you're going to want to use as your content in your email newsletter, right? In fact, it may be the exact same thing. And what you do in your email newsletter is give a one-paragraph introduction to what you're writing about, and then just provide a link directly to your blog as well. If there's something that you want to provide more in-depth knowledge of, you could do that via a white paper. You could do that via webinars. You can create a presentation for your existing clients and other prospective clients. You can publish a short video on YouTube or Vimeo, right? All of those help to sharpen the perception of yourself as someone who's educating your clients and building additional trust with your clients as well. It's also a great way to get new people to notice you and quickly become familiar with what you're an expert at. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and launch our second poll question. And the second poll question, which you should be seeing up right now, is how often do you send email newsletters to your clients? And you can say at least once per month, once a quarter, about yearly, or we don't send email newsletters at all. So we'll go ahead and give about 30 seconds for people to go ahead and fill in. And again, please select one of the following. And just a reminder that all three poll questions and a response is required in order for you to earn CPE credit for this webinar. All right, we'll take about 5 more seconds here, so please get in your last votes if you haven't already done so. Okay, going one, going once, going twice, sold. Okay, so here are the results. So 53% of you don't send email newsletters. So that is a clear-cut opportunity from a marketing perspective for you to get information out there. The other thing I'll mention is not only do email newsletters reflect well to the people who are already in your email recipient database, but emails are really, really easy to forward to other people as well. And it's a great way to get referrals by you send this to a small business and then they send this on to their friends as well. So 53% of you, I think you've got a real opportunity there. The other thing I'll mention is all sizes of practices should be sending email newsletters. This is not something that only large accounting firms should be doing. If you are a sole proprietor of an accounting practice, you should still be sending this. In fact, in a way, I would say it's even more important for you to be doing it because you're really representing yourself, not just the firm. You are the star of the firm there. And for those of you who are doing it once per month or once per quarter, we'll talk about frequency in just a minute there and sort of where you want to be with that. All right. So what should you write about? What we're looking for here is the intersection of what do my most important clients care about and what am I extremely knowledgeable about? Okay, so things that basically cover both of those areas. We want you to talk authentically, speak in your own voice. Don't try to be overly formal if that's not your normal style when you're conversing with your clients, right? Speak in a voice that sounds like your voice. Keep it simple and intuitive. The third point here, really, really important, readers love lists. There's a reason that my webinar is called 6 tips, 6 marketing tips, right? Because people love lists. People respond really, really well to that. So try to put your content into that form if possible. And I also encourage you to collaborate with others, whether it's colleagues of yours or people in your network. If you write content together, that's less work for each of you to produce that content, and it means that both of you can share it out and both gain the benefits of that as well. So here, just briefly, I've given some examples of content, 5 tax issues to consider before you invest. We're proud to introduce payroll services for your business, travel expenses 101, 3 things you need to know. You see a couple of other examples there as well. So these are the kinds of things that will draw attention. It'll get a lot of people to open that email. It'll get a lot of people to read that. And either they're going to have additional questions for you from that, which is great. That's an additional important conversation you're having. Or they're simply increasing their overall perception of you, and obviously that's great as well. Final point on email marketing. So who should I use to send my newsletters for the 53% of you who are not sending right now, or for ones who are not sure if they're using a good provider? Your email newsletter needs are going to be fairly simple unless you are a really large firm and you want to do really targeted emails. If you just want to send out one email to all of your small business clients or all of your clients, period, on a periodic basis, lots of great choices out there. The two that I would recommend if you're not using one yet are either MailChimp or Constant Contact. I'm a big fan of both of them. MailChimp is super easy to use. It's the easiest one to get started with if you don't already have an email database and haven't done it before. It's a very intuitive interface. Constant Contact provides a little bit more functionality. It's a little bit more expensive as well. I should actually mention MailChimp up to, I want to say 250 people in your email list. I believe you can send a certain number of times per year for free. So that's a great way to start without any sort of money investment at all. Constant Contact starts at $10 per month and then can go up from there. Another one that I recommend is iContact, but if you're going to use iContact, their premier version is much better than their basic version. Of course, their premier version is also going to cost a lot more. But if you are already doing email and you're kind of looking for the next step, you want more reporting from it, etc., I would say that these are the three you want to consider. And if you don't have much experience with it and want a super simple one to use, MailChimp, then Constant Contact. How often should I send email newsletters? Ideally once every 4 to 8 weeks. There's a lot of research that's been done on email frequency. If you've got a lot to say, if you've got really good information to share, you can even go a little bit more frequent than every 4 weeks. But I want to be respectful of your time and the fact that you're busy doing a lot of things other than whipping up email newsletters, or someone else in your office whipping up email newsletters. So I think once every 4 to 8 weeks is totally fine in terms of kind of staying in the front of mind of your clients, but not inundating them with emails. All right, next up, get the big 5 right on your website. So I'm going to talk about 5 things on your website that you want to get right here. So number 1, clear differentiation. Really, really important. What you want to answer really quickly on your website is, why should I pick your firm instead of your competitors? Because when a prospective client comes to your website, that's really one of the most important things that they're trying to answer, right? Why should I pick your firm? And this chart here was research that was done on, as people visit a web page longer and longer, their probability of leaving the page at any given second. And for me, as somebody who is a marketer and helps to design websites all the time, this is really depressing, because this says basically within the first 20 seconds, I'm going to lose a dramatic number of people. But the good news is, if I can convince people within 20 seconds that there's something here of value to them and something that will answer the question, why should I pick you, then you'll see the curve really flattens out and people are much more likely to stay for a much longer period of time after that, right? So the way to think about your website is, I need to make that immediate impact and immediately start answering the key question that prospective clients are going to be coming to my website with. Number 2, you want to make sure that your website is mobile ready. And what that really means is, partner with a website provider who creates a fully mobile ready version. So we at AccountantsWorld have Website Relief, and Website Relief is fully mobile ready. If you choose to use someone else in the industry, I think one of the first questions to ask is, will the sites be fully mobile ready? Over half of your prospective clients are going to visit your website for the first time using a mobile device rather than using their laptop. So you want to make sure that your website is going to look really good on a mobile device. Number 3, websites are not just for prospective clients. You also want to make sure that you're offering value to your existing clients. And I think the most important way that you can do that is by offering easy, secure file sharing with them. Clients expect your site to not only provide them with information, but also provide ongoing value throughout their partnership with you. So if you can save them time and save your staff time by offering secure access to all of their files, tax returns, documents, etc., that's something that is of really significant value. And the other thing is that makes them a little bit more loyal to you because they now have access to those files, and they're going to lose that direct access if they decide to shop around and go somewhere else. So Website Relief offers full-fledged file sharing. There's a portal for clients to go in and be able to access their files from there. So I think that's a really, really important feature to look for, whatever application you're looking for. Two final things on the website, contact information and bios. Sounds obvious, right? We want to have our contact information there. A third of all sites either don't contain contact information or tuck this information away in hard to find places. That is unacceptable. Your contact information should be immediately apparent to any visitor who wants to contact you. And bios, you want to do this for all of your staff, not just for the partners in the firm. And preferably with photos, because I think that just humanizes the people in the firm. And it can also create a sense of pride among your staff as well, to see their names and faces up there. And then finally, repurpose content. So that content that we talked about before related to email, put that same content onto your blog as well, on your website. You know, so you can just republish your newsletters directly onto there, or the primary content that they have. Some people love email, open up every email that they get, look at it intently. Some people hate email and are much more likely to go to your website or look on a mobile device or whatever it might be, right? So we want to make sure that the best content you're producing is available wherever they may be. Okay, I'm going to open up the third poll question at this point. And here it is, very simple. How satisfied are you with your firm's current website? And you'll notice the last of the 5 options is we don't currently have a website. So if you don't currently have one, you can go ahead and select that. Otherwise, if you do have a website, everywhere, please select one of the options from very satisfied all the way down to very dissatisfied. And again, just a reminder, voting in this poll is required in order to get CP credit for this webinar. Okay, so we'll take about 10 more seconds here. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that poll, share the results here. So 28% of you do not currently have a website. I think no matter how small your practice is, I think that is a real opportunity for your firm. It's simply to get a website going that reflects your practice well. 23% very satisfied, that's fantastic. 35% somewhat satisfied, and that may mean that of the big 5 items that we just talked about, maybe you're meeting some of those but not doing so well on others, so those are areas where you can quickly improve. And then 14% of you not very satisfied or very dissatisfied. Think of this as an opportunity for a fresh start. Switching from a website provider to a different website provider or updating a website has never been easier than it is now. Whether you hire a designer to do it for you or use a DIY tool, I can honestly say the tools are amazing out there right now to create good quality websites. They don't take professional design. You know, if you have a professional designer, that's great, but you don't have to have one. And you can create something that's both attractive and really functional in the ways that we talked about before. Question that came in from John, I'll go ahead and answer here. What limitations must one observe when sending email marketing? Great question. So you can, so the most important one is who you can send to. So the rules of direct email marketing are you can always contact your customers, and you can contact any prospective customers who have explicitly agreed that you can email them. So if someone is a prospective customer, you've got their email address, but they haven't become a customer of yours, if you haven't explicitly gotten them to say, yes, you can email me with special offers or information, then you are not allowed to email to them. The other big thing is you have to have a way for people to unsubscribe from your emails as well, from your email newsletters. Now, if you use something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, they have that functionality built in for you. So if somebody clicks the unsubscribe button at the bottom of one of your MailChimp emails, you won't have to worry about any more emails ever going to them. MailChimp will automatically suppress their email from there. So those are the 2 most important things. Number 1, make sure that you've gotten permission to email to them, which is implicit if they're a customer, but you need to get it explicitly if they're not a customer. And number two, you've got to give people a clear way to opt out of getting any more marketing emails from you in the future. All right, so I know we're running pretty low on time here, so I'm going to try to continue on here. Okay, so hopefully you guys are now seeing the Invest in Paid Search page. Sharon, if you're not seeing that, let me know, but otherwise I'm going to continue on here. So investing in paid search. So what is paid search? I just did I'm in a hotel room in Dallas right now, so I did a Google search on accountants in Dallas, and this is what the page, the Google page results look like over here. So what you see here on this page, on the bottom left, you see what are the natural search results, the area with the map. And then just below that, all the way at the bottom, you'll see accountants in Dallas from Yelp, yelp.com/Dallas/accountants, right? And then as you continue on down the page, you'll see dozens or even hundreds of other natural search results. Nobody has to pay to get listed in there. However, everything else that you see on the top and the right-hand side, those were all paid listings, right? Somebody paid to have their ad put there. And if you look very closely, you'll see the word ad in tiny little 3-point font next to a lot of these, next to a lot of those listings, right? So those companies, those websites paid to be listed in those particular situations. And not surprisingly, many people who come to a Google search page don't realize that that's paid for, right? And they'll go ahead and click on that thinking that that's what Google wants to direct them to, naturally. So it makes a lot of sense to actually end up in that top part and that right part because you're much more likely to get noticed at that point. So the question I always get about paid search is, why should I pay for something that I can get for free, right? I can be listed on Google just by being an accountant in Dallas and having a website that makes it clear that I'm an accountant in Dallas. But chances are you're going to be a lot further down the page than we just saw, right? And that's borne out by the fact that only about 1/3 of all search clicks on Google are natural search, i.e. free search, and 2/3 of them are coming in from those sponsored listings, the paid search listings. So how do you get started on this? Well, you go to adwords.google.com, adwords.google.com, and you basically start by saying, here are the keywords that I want to be listed for. When somebody searches on accountants in Dallas or accountants in Charlotte, I want to make sure that I'm listed for there. The key strategy on AdWords is don't try to buy up every single keyword that describes what you do, right? The key is have a small number of keywords that you really want to make sure you're being shown for, and you bid really aggressively on those. So Google AdWords works on a bidding model. You want to make sure that you're bidding really aggressively for the keywords that you want to make sure that you're listed for. If you have problems or questions as you're going through that process, both Google and Bing, which you may also want to be on, both of them offer pretty good support. So you can email them with questions and they'll do their best to get back to you about that. Final thing I'm going to mention here is use social media strategically, and I know we're just about running out of time. So this is the most important thing I'll say about social media. For most professional accounting firms, the most important social media sites are LinkedIn, and then way behind LinkedIn is everything else. So if you are spending time on social media right now, the vast majority of your time should be going to LinkedIn because that's the site that's built for professionals and it's built for small businesses to find other businesses. And if we look at how LinkedIn supports that, their pages are really set up well for that. So the most important thing is get a company page on LinkedIn, list your services the way that you want to on there. So you create a company profile, you add a list of what services you provide, which sounds obvious, but by doing that, LinkedIn will make sure you're included as part of their search results. And finally, start posting updates of key news or content. So again, we're talking about repurposing content, right? The things that you've written elsewhere, put them up on LinkedIn as well. They will be shared by a lot of people on LinkedIn. Your name will get known by a lot of other prospective clients as well. The others, I've got some information on here about Twitter, Facebook, Google+. You can check that out on your own. If you have any questions for me about that, you can shoot me an email on that. And that's it. So I want to thank you for attending today. I hope that this has been helpful to you. If you have any other questions right now, please go ahead and submit them. I'm going to stick around online for a few minutes here, and I'll answer those for anybody who wants to stick around to get a question answered. Our contact information is up there. I encourage you to learn more about our website relief product and our directory listings product. Beyond the fact that I work for Accountants World, I can honestly say that they really fit the paradigm of what you should be looking to do in terms of marketing your services. And so if you don't currently have a directory listing, or if you don't have a website that you're happy with, I really encourage you to go ahead and check those out. You can reach us at 888-999-1366 or go to www.accountantsworld.com. If you want to reach me and the rest of the marketing team here at Accountants World, simply go to or email us at marketing@accountantsworld.com, and I'll be happy to answer questions that you have there as well. So thanks again for attending, and just a reminder that when you leave the webinar, you will see the post-webinar survey. Please go ahead and fill that out to make sure that you get CPE credit for today's webinar. Thanks again, and we'll see you in 4 weeks for Jeff Gramlich's next expert webinar. Thanks.